What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. Down there we have Las Vegas Creek. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gents, I'm in a mood to explore a bit, so I want to fish a different section of the Las Vegas Creek, one that I have not fished before. And where is a better place to start than at the beginning? Now, what I mean by this, of course, Las Vegas Creek goes all the way from the wetlands down to Lake Mead, but the section between Lake Las Vegas and the wetlands, you're not allowed to fish there. And the first actual spot that you're allowed to fish is from that bridge downwards to Lake Mead. You're allowed to fish. So my plan for today is going to go down to the bridge and let's see what we can find out there. Now, quite a lot of people have asked how to get to this spot, so I just want to say again, you actually cross that little bridge, then you immediately after the bridge get a turn off for the wetlands trail. You park there and you just hike all the way down to the water. If you take the little trail directly east, you will go to the lava butte section that I normally go to, but this time around I'm going straight down the hill to see if I can go to the bridge. So the GoPro doesn't really pick it up, but these are some steep hills to get down. This little spot here is where I first fished the Las Vegas Creek. This is where I caught all those green sunfish. It is linked in the card above if you want to see that video. But we're not going to be fishing around this area. We are going to be moving towards the bridge. Alright guys, we made it to our fishing spot. We're right by the bridge. Found this little spot next to a waterfall. I hope the little microphone can shield a bit of the noise, but this looks to be a good spot. We also have a heron there. That means there are some fish in this area, otherwise that bird would not be here. But let's have a look at this little spot where the water's rushing in. We might try for some predatory fish there, waiting for something to wash down. But most fish actually don't sit in the middle of the current like that. Most fish will rather be in a pool like this, where it's a bit deeper water with some places for them to hide. So I'm thinking this is a great place for some baits to soak, to see if we can get any of the fish that's in this deep pool, while we're casting around some lures to see what else we can find out there. Right, so because we're fishing inside the Lake Mead recreational area, all the park rules apply. That means we're only allowed to use 2 hooks per line. I'm using a type of a Carolina rig where the weight can move around, but instead of having a normal swivel, I have a 3-way swivel with a longer piece of line. On that I'm having some night crawlers, hoping for some catfish. And on the other one is a shorter piece of line with some corn. The reason why this one is shorter, I want this one to be on the bottom, whereas this one can float around in the current. But this one we need on the bottom for the bottom feeders like carp. Now I am using some eagle claw octopus hooks, size 6. This is just a smaller hook, thinking they're going to be some smaller fish in this body of water. So I'm not looking for big fish, so I'm using these small octopus hooks. Alright, and then as the day progresses, I'll move this to different locations to try and see where the fish are. But for now, I'm just going to drop it down right here in front of me, thinking that this is a deeper hole where some of the bigger fish might be hiding. Okay, so that's my baits soaking out there in the hole. We have a little bell on there. If something goes for it, it'll sound and I'll know something is on our baits. So let's get our second rod set up. And there we go, fish on. Still busy setting up the second rod, but we already have a fish on. Looks to be a little largemouth bass. Indeed, and he went for a little night crawler. So first fish on the board, tiny little largemouth. That little octopus hook has gone twice through his lip. He wasn't going to get off there. And that's why you need a sharper hook, because this little fish was hooked without even me setting the hook. But decent little sized largemouth bass. First fish for the day. On the board with a fish. Let's get him back into the water. We know that largemouth do eat night crawlers, but I was not expecting this one to go for the night crawler, but more than happy to get a little largie on night crawler. Now there's a bit of a drop off here, so I'm just going to drop him head first back into the water. And there he goes. Okay, and then on my second rod, I'm going for my light setup. I only have 2-pound test line on this. I want something extremely light so I can throw out just a hook, nothing else, no weights or nothing, just a tiny little hook that I'm using. This is a panfish hook. The reason why I'm using this is I'm thinking that we're putting on a small piece of night crawler rather than having it sit in one specific spot. This is something that's going to be unnatural. I mean, you have a current flowing, so any food that goes to the fish will probably be flowing downriver. That's why I want something that does not have any weights on there, so that I can throw that out on one side, let it float downriver, and continue finding different channels to see whether I can find where the fish are feeding. Of course, I have a few different lures with me that I'll be using as well, but I'm going to start off with this. Let's see if we get on some more fish. Alright, ladies and gents, after drifting that little piece of worm around, doing quite a few casts out there, I found that I'm getting a lot more hits close to the reeds, especially against the reeds, but they seem to be very small fish, and after missing a couple of them, it suddenly went very quiet. So I'm going to give this area a bit of a rest. Still have the baits out there, but I think we need to wait for the fish to kind of come back out of the reeds to get into this deeper hole. So for that reason, I'm going to swap over to some lures. I'm going to start with some Ned rigs, maybe see if we can get any fish close to the little waterfalls or some of the deeper holes out there. Alright, ladies and gents, I set out this morning with a goal of exploring a new spot and having some fun, and I do think we can put a little tick to each one of those. Now, in a matter of 4 hours, I threw around quite a lot of lures, also had some bait soaking, but I only managed to catch 2 little largemouth. The second one, of course, was a much smaller little fish, and that was caught on a 1-inch lipless crank, but sadly I didn't get any footage of that. My bad. Now, of course, there is a misconception that it is quite easy to find fish out here, and it is not that easy, but there are lots of holes to explore, and even the smallest little fish is quite rewarding once you finally land something. But this, of course, brings me to the creek itself and the fish in there. I would personally not keep any fish caught in this area. Las Vegas Creek is, of course, the grey water the recycled water from Las Vegas coming back to the lake that gets chemically treated and quite regularly tested. But there's also quite a lot of urban runoff that runs into this creek as well. That's where the true danger is. I mean, by cooking some fish, you obviously get rid of stuff like bacteria or parasites, but it's the stuff like the microplastics, that's the problem. That's the stuff you cannot get rid of. So I would recommend not keeping any fish that you get from this little creek, but it is still fun to walk and stalk this creek to see if you can find any fish. Alright guys, but remember to like, comment and subscribe. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.